guys, welcome back. So I'm here with my sister, Sabrina. If there's anyone who has been there through it all, it's definitely her. So I kind of just want to tell the story of like where I began, some of the sacrifices I made, and the dedication that I needed to put into this. So she's gonna help me. High school. Okay.
Like you knew you always wanted to be a cosmetologist, but like what did it take for you to get there?
In high school, okay, so in high school is when I decided that I wanted to do hair because I have a lot of hair and it's very curly, and I didn't know how to style my hair. I think one time, remember when Marina straightened my hair and I didn't want to wash it? So
for like
my
3
cousin,
days.
Yeah, my cousin straightened my hair once, and I literally did not want to wash it. I was like crying that I had to wash my hair because I thought it was so amazing that I had nice hair for once. So I remember that when I got into high school, I did want to be a doctor. I wanted to be a doctor. I started to realize I did not like high school. I didn't like that. I didn't really like high school anymore. And so since I knew it was going to take 8 years of college, I realized that's probably not going to work for me. So I decided that that wasn't going to work and I would have to think of something else. So in about 11th grade was when I started getting into my looks, and I would go home and practice with the curling iron. I would hold the curling iron this way, I would hold the curling iron that way. I would try a bigger curling iron, a smaller curling iron, until I accomplished like understanding how to do my hair and how to work with my hair. So once I decided that, I also kind of knew that I wanted my own business. I just didn't know what kind. Remember I wanted like pizza, like to do Italian.
I wanted to do something.
I love pizza. Actually, pizza's on its way right now. You know that? I wanted to do pizza. I wanted to open a business with pizza. So then I decided that maybe that wasn't a good idea because I'd eat it all. So I decided that I did like doing hair. I loved styling hair. At the time, I thought I would do a lot of weddings. But today, I do weddings, but it's actually like a lot more color than in weddings, so it's kind of funny. But that's when I decided that I was going to open my own business, about 11th grade.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my dad, like my mom or dad didn't graduate high school, so they pushed school, but not as much.
Yeah, no.
Like at first I came home, in 8th grade I had A's and B's, and then 9th grade it was just like, forget it, I don't want to do this no more. I had like D's and F's.
It was as long as you passed your class. That's
yeah, mom and dad were, yeah. I graduated with a 1.6, so that tells you how bad I hated school. I kind of just like did school to get by, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna do hair anyways, and I'm gonna own my own business. So that was that. I decided at that point I was gonna do hair and I was gonna open my own business. And I had a job. I was 16. I had a job at Rite Aid, my first job. And then I was very hard worker, so as soon as I graduated, I got a job at Staters.
Yeah.
And then I ended up getting a second job. Remember that?
Yeah.
Graveyard? No, Graveyard was Staters.
And then you worked at Fontana.
City of Fontana.
City of Fontana.
So I've always been a really good hard worker, and I started to work 2 jobs. So I guess you can say I didn't really jump on the whole hair thing right away.
No.
And it wasn't until an event happened in my life, right?
Yes.
That I didn't find the motivation to sign up again. I kind of just got let down for a while. And at the time, I had a boyfriend who he ended up passing away in a car accident. I feel like I'm gonna cry.
That's odd. It's not.
Okay, so he ended up passing away in a car accident, and I ended up getting sidetracked a little bit with that. And it wasn't until then that I signed. After a while, I thought it was the end of the world. Honestly, I was just kind of like, why did this happen? How did this happen?
And I think during that time you were so focused on work and working 2 jobs and just like making money. And then during that time it was like a whole life-changing experience, because then on top of that you wanted to start going out. You wanted to be around people. You couldn't be by yourself. And that's when like a whole change happened with you.
Right. I definitely was out of character for a while.
Yes.
Around that time, because I never really I had a friend who passed away a year before that in a car accident, and it was tragic.
Yeah.
And then a year later, my boyfriend at the time passed away, and so I guess I went through this phase in my life where it was like I lost myself for a while. One point where my dad kind of like explained to me, he's like, "Mija, come here." And I'm like, "Yes, Dad." And he's like, "Remember that day?" And he was like,
"Yeah, it was during the car wash. We
it was
had
during
a car wash to raise money."
Yeah, and he's like, "Look at my watch." And I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, "Is it still ticking?" I'm like, "Yes." He's like, Are the cars still moving on the freeway and the street? I'm like, yes, Dad. I'm like, what is he talking about? Okay, whatever. So then he's like, is Burger King still selling cheeseburgers? I'm like, yes. He's like, well, life is not going to stop and wait for you. Life will continue on, and people will continue on with their lives, whether you are moving or not. So you're going to have to like gather yourself up and continue to push forward. And at the time I was like, that is so me. I can't believe he just said that. Like, my own dad just said that, and he knows how hard it is and all these things. And I didn't understand it at the time. And then after like a few months went by, I decided, like, you know what, he's right. And I need to press forward with my goals, which was opening a salon. So I ended up signing back up for cosmetology again. And I started working a second job to occupy my time. Then rather than going out, I started trying to, like, you know, keep my head out of the dirt, I guess. Yeah. And so I started working a second job, and meanwhile I signed up for cosmetology school. I started to make more goals. I wanted to, like, buy a condo at the time, and it just ended up that I got accepted to the program. And I almost decided to not do the program because I had a goal of buying my own condo, and I felt like that was super important to me. But I had to make the right decision, which was quit my second job and attend school so that I can go towards opening up the salon. So I started going to school, to the cosmetology program, and still working at Staters, but it turns out the program is actually very intense. So I ended up quitting Staters so I could focus on school for a while. And then that was when I started getting the hang of school, so I did what I do best and got a job again at Olive Garden. So during school, I got the hang of it. I made some really good friends that I still have to this day, and I actually enjoyed the program a lot. And I got us a job at Olive Garden. Pain was a motivation for me at the time, and I was like, I gotta focus on my goal. And I knew the goal, but you know, sometimes you get sidetracked. Life sidetracks you, or just life hits you, and it's just like, now what? And I just knew that I had to stay focused and keep my one foot in front of the other at all times. And so at that time, that was my motivation, was like, you know, these tragedies happening. That was my motivation. So I stayed focused, and I did school, and it took about 1.5 years. And that's when Dad hit me with, when are you going to actually do hair? Yeah. Remember?
Because for a while you didn't do anything with your license.
I didn't do anything with my license for a while. It's scary. It's actually really scary to go off and like do something. Even though I had my license, you went to school, it doesn't mean you know really how to do hair. You kind of just learn how to pass the test, and you know a little bit, but it's really scary to actually go into the field, and then you're kind of like the new person who really doesn't really know much. In school, they would say that being an assistant was probably the best route to go after school. So I tried to apply at multiple jobs, and they didn't hire me. Yeah. I just was like good at getting jobs, but now it was like something, it was weird. I just couldn't get a job. And as soon as I knew, I'm like, Dad, this is the one. Mom, this is the one. Yeah. Like, for sure, like, this is the one. I know that this is the one I want to work on. They're like, sorry, we hired somebody else. I decided that I was just going to jump into booth rent and just take the risk. Because when you're booth rent in this career, you have to pay, like, no matter what. Like, you kind of just, like, pay at the end of the week, and that's that. Like, whether you have clients or you don't. And, of course, I didn't have any clients. I mean, I used to do hair at home during school, and that was a lot. It was very hard to do hair at home when you're, like, in the shower washing people's hair. I started working my first day. I think I told the girl that I was doing hair for a year. Yeah. She's like, how long have you been doing hair? I'm like, a year? Like, I wouldn't want to say a day, and she's, like, freaking out. And I didn't know what I was doing. I kind of just, like, did something. I did what I thought I knew I could do, and I learned just that way. I kind of just learned that way. I worked there for about, what, 3 months?
Yeah, it wasn't long.
It wasn't long. I wanted something closer to home, something because that was my clientele was a little closer to home. So I ended up applying at a different salon, and they hired me closer to home, which was the salon I was at for 7 years, 6-7 years. So the first step was to create like a name. Like, yeah, it wasn't until Twitter. I needed a name for Twitter. That's how I came up with Cosmo Queen. So I needed a name for Twitter, came up with Cosmo Queen, and it stuck, and I used that name for my social media on Instagram. And now people don't even know my name. They just know me as Cosmo Queen. Cosmo Queen. Like, they come into the salon and they're like, is Cosmo Queen here? And I'm like, oh my God. I made up that name like 8 years ago. So it's like kind of, I mean, it works. It works.
So how did you build your clientele though?
So I knew I needed to get Cosmo Queen out there. I needed people to know who I was, what I did, where I worked. I knew that. So I used social media. I used referrals. I would like write girls like, hey girl, like what did you use on her hair? And like people sometimes wouldn't even write me back. But I was so passionate about it. Like I wouldn't even go to sleep. I would just be like all day watching videos, trying to like learn how to do hair. Marketing on Instagram was huge. I would do girls' hair who had a lot of followers. I would do their hair for free or for cheap. There's times I didn't even make booth rent. I would have to like go work at Fridays at night in order to pay booth rent to support my career. Yeah. And it kind of was like disappointing. There was times where I wanted to quit because you go to school and you're all excited and you start doing hair and then you don't make any money. It's pretty sad. Like you don't make any money, you don't have any clients. And you don't really realize that. You just kind of like, I'm done with school, like I'm starting my career, and then you get into the career and it's like, oh, no, now I'm starting my career. Like now I have to build and I have to do all these things, which like I should have been that doctor that like as soon as you get your license, you're a doctor. Yeah. I felt like it was time to let go of Fridays in order to be more successful on the hair end of things. I didn't feel like Fridays was a good idea anymore because I was like trying to work doing hair, and then sometimes I couldn't take clients because I had to go to work at night. So I felt like it was a good time to quit Fridays and focus on just hair. It was really scary. It was scary to make that move. I wasn't sure. I'm like, well, what about if I don't have enough money? And it's weird because I didn't even have bills, so I don't know what I was stressed out about.
And I think you were comfortable enough to be able to quit, to be able to make rent at least. But yeah. I think that was just like your support. Like you could always fall back on that. So yeah. It was hard for you to just leave.
And it's scary. I would take any appointment. I would take anything, like everything. Like worst enemy from high school, come on in, girl. Do your hair. Like you just forget about anything. You just start focusing on building, and that was just my focus, is building. All I knew was I eventually wanted a salon, and for now I just have to build. Like that's all I can do is build a solid clientele. So about a year or maybe a year and a half into doing hair, I was on a roll. I was building clients. I was working all night. I was working every day. I found out I was pregnant, and
I think that was the scariest time of your life.
It was scary, but I mean, I remember like taking a pregnancy test, and I was like, Christina, do not cry. Like this is your fault. Like I literally was like, you're not gonna cry because this is like, come on, like you can't really say like it's a complete accident because you know what you're doing. But I didn't expect to have a baby. I was focused on my career. I worked hard. I went out here and there, but always after work, or like work was always first and building was always first. And so I found out I was pregnant, and then I'm like, oh no, like there's no, like I gotta keep going, like I can't give up.
I think during that time too, when you were pregnant, because you were like booming in your career, you still like were working hard. She was still working long days. Like we would call and be like, have you ate? No, I haven't ate. Like
I was so focused.
You were so focused to the point too when people were processing, like you would go throw up in the.
I only threw up twice. I only threw up twice during my pregnancy, but I was so determined. And I think again, like motivation changes over time. Like it's not sometimes one thing that motivates you. It's a series of things. And so like going back to like where my boyfriend had passed away, and that was like motivation for me to keep going. Now I was pregnant, and it was like, okay, I'm just gonna work even harder because like now I have a baby. Like this is huge. Like and the reason why I wanted my own business in the first place was so that my kids and my family can be solid, so that they can do things that I didn't do, which is like go quad riding, sea-doos. Like we didn't do those things when we were young. I mean, we had a good life, but I wanted to give them more than what we had. And so now that I'm expecting a baby, like I just worked even harder. But I didn't know a balance. I didn't know how to balance back then. So I just worked a lot, and it was scary.
Yeah, and I feel like that also put your business on hold because definitely. Now you're working for your family, and it's like, let me focus on the family aspect and worry about
because you should like I mean, you're a mom. When you become a mom, your priority is to be a mom. So it definitely changed things. So I was already saving towards a salon at the time. And now it was like, okay, well, so much for that. It's gonna have to go into my child now. Like, he's gonna need a crib or whatever the baby's gonna need. Like, that money's gonna need to be spent on those things. And so I kind of had to put the savings on hold until my son was set. And I remember telling my family about being pregnant, and my brother was like, "What? I thought you wanted to like be successful. Like, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know." He was the one that made me cry, actually.
Yeah.
Like, that's the first time I cried. He didn't doubt me. He just knew, like, oh my God, it's gonna be a lot harder for you. I think grandma told mom, like,
I thought she wanted to be successful.
I thought she wanted to be successful. Like, now she's pregnant. Like, good luck, you know? And it's just the old school way of thinking. Like, it's tough. Like, now you got to be a mom, and moms know what it's like to have a kid, and it's a lot harder. But it wasn't going to stop me. It definitely wasn't going to stop me. I definitely worked hard. The money that I was saving towards the salon, I ended up buying a condo. Me and my son's dad, we ended up buying a condo. I felt like I needed to situate my son. I didn't feel right living with my parents and owning a salon. It didn't make sense to me. It was a little greedy. If I did it that way, I felt like I was being greedy. Like, I was just thinking about the salon too much. And so I'm like, you know what? Like, I just don't feel right saving money, opening a salon, and still keeping my family in this situation where we live with my parents. And I felt like I was being selfish if I did that. So we bought a condo, and the money was gone. And I was like, no.
Did you ever feel that you lost the want of a business when you had a family, though?
No.
They didn't change at all? Like, you weren't like, oh, let me just be family? And
no, I've always...
Or did it, like, drive you more?
I think the drive becomes, like, for me, it becomes more and more and more and more of a drive, and more, like, I become more passionate as things happen against me. Like, it drives me even more. So when things are like, okay, well, now you have a son, now it's a lot harder. Like, it just pushes me even more. So no, like, having a family, I definitely can say they sacrifice the most, because in a sense you're young. And this is why I tell people, like, having a kid when you're trying to focus or you're trying to achieve something is so hard, because you're still selfish. And I was 23 when I had my son, but which I say is young, and she thinks it's funny that she thinks like 23 is not young. But I think it's young because of what I wanted to achieve. And having a son, like, he has to sacrifice so much, and you're still kind of selfish. Even though, like, it sounds bad, I was still young, and I was still like, well, I still want a salon, and I'm not gonna give up. And as much as I was so focused and passionate, like, I kind of like when he was born, I wasn't super busy. I was busy, but like, I had time with him. And then I think when he was like 9 months and on, like, I got even busier and busier and busier. And I was so focused on, like, okay, well, I need to achieve these things for my family. You just, like, kind of like forget that, like, your son is like I would pick him up like at 10 o'clock at night sometimes, like, and he was like a little tiny baby in a carrier. And I was so focused, and I was like, I have to achieve this even more now that I have a son. But it's hard to, as a mom, to balance family and balance career. Yeah, there was a time in my career where I got an offer to buy a salon that was, at the time, I thought perfect for me. Other than the location, I wanted to remain in Grand Terrace. So the location wasn't in Grand Terrace, but other than that, it had everything I wanted. It had a nail room.
Yeah, it had a nail room.
It had a facial room. And then it had, I think, 8 chairs, 8 stations.
Yeah, it was a full service
salon. It was a full service salon. And I had gotten an offer to work there for 1 year, and after 1 year, purchase the salon. And of course I got all excited. I'm like, oh my God, this is perfect. It's everything I wanted. And we went, my family looked at it. I was actually supposed to, like, I packed everything. I was supposed to leave. I was supposed to do this whole idea, this whole purchase. And I think it was until like the day before I was gonna start there, I had like a second thought, and I was just like, I don't think this is a good idea. In my gut, it didn't feel right, but I just was excited. Like, oh my God, my own salon, like, this is what I wanted, this is what I wanted. You get so wrapped up with the idea. And then I just knew in my gut, like, this is not good. This is not a good idea.
Yeah.
I just didn't think it was a good, there was no contracts in place. there was nothing set in stone. It was just a verbal agreement, and I didn't feel right about that. I felt like something needed to be in a contract, and I just didn't feel like it was going to work out. So last minute, I changed my mind.
Yeah.
And I even called you and Mom Han. I'm like, oh my God, what do you guys think? Like, what should I do? And I think they agreed that if it wasn't in my gut, I shouldn't do it. So first, it was like building a clientele, focusing on growing your name. Second thing was, okay, I decided I wanted to save my own money. I didn't want a loan, so that was the second thing I discovered. Then it was kind of like, okay, now that I have some type of money saved, like how much money is this going to take? Like, I have no idea. I don't know the answers to these things. So I had my eye on a certain location in Grand Terrace. It was like empty for
10 plus
forever. It was empty forever. And I had my eye on this location. I'm like, that's the one. Like, that's a location I want. And my next step would be to figure out how much this may cost, how much everything would cost. So I started doing my research. I started doing budgets.
Yeah.
I would do budgets left and right. Like, I would make a new budget all the time. Like, no, I forgot about this. I forgot about this. But I wasn't ready to actually move on it. So I just brought in contractors. I called contractors. I told them to come in, and I figured out how much plumbing would be. Like, how much would it be if I wanted this many bowls here? And how much would it be for flooring? And they gave me numbers. And once I got those numbers, I figured, okay, this is how much I'm going to need to open my own salon. And then with cushion, because I always, like, I need a cushion. And so I would save, and it took a lot of discipline to save this money. It took a lot of, like, missing out on vacations, missing out on all these trips that we were invited on, which actually, like, it's not just me who sacrifices. Again, it's my son and my boyfriend who sacrificed a lot. And at the time, I didn't really care because it was like, well, I'm going to open a salon, so you're either in it or you're not in it.
Yeah.
Which is really tough because you're just focused, and you have like this tunnel vision, and you know what you want, you have a vision, but it's really, really hard because you're in your relationship, it's tough, like, because you can't expect that person to understand or even see your vision. And then you are like, I can't believe you don't understand my vision. Like, I've said it a million times. Like, this is what I want. This is how it's gonna look. Like, this is where we're going with this. And it took a long time. And I think Josh, like, was kind of like, okay, how much more is this gonna take? Like, how much more 12-hour days are you gonna have to work? And he didn't understand it, so it was really tough. We had two completely different ways of living and two complete different goals and mindsets, and he didn't understand me and I didn't understand him. So it was definitely tough, a big thing for our relationship, very tough on our relationship. But I didn't want to, I knew I wanted a family, but I also knew that I wanted a salon and I wanted my own business. But how do you balance the two? Like, you don't know how. You just kind of go with the flow, and then things get really rocky and it's tough, and it's like so we had the location that I chose, well, I thought I chose, and I started saving. So I started saving, made a budget, redid it until I felt like it was done, and I came up with an amount that I needed to save in order to open the salon and still have a cushion, because I also didn't want to risk, like, losing my house, or I didn't want to risk money problems. So I saved the money that I needed to save, and then I convinced myself that I needed to save more because I got scared. Like, after all this time, I knew I wanted a salon. I was finally ready, and I, like, started to back out. Like, oh my God, maybe this is not a good idea. This is really scary. It's a lot scarier than I thought it was going to be. Like, I don't even know. I went to the city and got the paperwork on what I needed, and I didn't understand anything. I'm like, what do I need to draw? Like, what plans? Like, I didn't even know what I was supposed to do, so I kind of got scared. So I started convincing myself that I needed to save more to give me more time. So I saved a little bit more, and then I was like, okay, that's it. I need to, like, really actually do this. And the place was still available all the way up until
you were almost ready to.
I was like, I'm ready. I'm gonna go for it. This is it. And I call, and then the guy's like, oh no, we rented half that building out. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, God, I thought you had my back. Because I had said, like, if that building was for me, God will keep it for me. So as much as I trusted God that was going to be, like, maybe he had a different plan, I was really disappointed and discouraged, because Like I set up everything, all my plans I set up were for that exact building. Now it was kind of disappointing because the moment I was ready, the place I had my eyes set on was gone. I think they even cut it in half, and I even took
you were like, I still want this place, even though it was completely
so small.
It
was so small, and I was like, Sabrina, we can make this work. Like it was half, but it was so small it wouldn't have worked, and I just was like, okay, it's not gonna work. Mm-hmm. The location that we're at now, I actually live really close, and so I've seen it, but it wasn't definitely not ideal for me. It was not cute. It wasn't cute. It was dead. It was dark. Very, what's the word? Like industrial. Yeah. Very industrial.
More like warehouse.
Yes, very warehouse. So my mom, because my moms are moms. They just know. Like she was like, I see a building and it's like, I think it'd be good for you. I think you should look into it. I'm like, no, Mom, I already looked at that place. Like, I don't think it's ideal for me. Like, I can't envision a salon there. It's just very industrial. And you and Josh were like, ugh, no, not that location. Like, don't do that location. It's dark. It's ugly. So one day I just was like, you know what, my mom, she might be right. So I called and I asked to see it. And I actually brought her and I brought Josh, which by the way, Josh is my boyfriend, my son's father, my baby daddy. So I brought them out. I was like, maybe if we see it, we'll change our minds. But I kind of already had an idea that it wasn't going to be it. I was just kind of like, let's just check. So we came, we looked at it. It was actually not the location we're at right now is actually across from us. We looked at the building and her and Josh were kind of like, actually, it's not that bad once you're in here. Like once you're in here, it's not that bad. I can see it happening. So they offered me the spot right across, which is where we're at now. But it wasn't ready yet. It was going to take another 3 months, which was perfect for me because I could take another 3 months. Why not?
And then that one also across had rooms that you would have to like demolish. It would have needed a little bit more work.
Yeah, it would have needed like we would have to knock down the wall to conjoin the two units together to make one unit, like one big unit that we needed. This one was already open, didn't need to knock anything down. So we came to see this one, and before, everyone kind of wants to know, what was this place before? It was a lady who, her father passed away and she was holding all of his stuff. He had a lot of antiques and she filled this place with all his antiques. So when we came in, it was like packed with antiques, and we're like, oh my God, like I need to like like evaluate here, because I had like planned out at the other location exactly what was going to happen. So when we walked into this one, it was like, oh wait, this is going to be different. Yeah. So it was scary, and then it also had 2 rooms, which in the beginning I planned on knocking out and doing only hair. So I was like, okay, you know what, this can work. But I was really scared. I was like really, really, really scared to do it. I was like, what if people don't like it? What if people don't come because the location is not like how, it's not ideal. There was a lot of like what ifs, a lot of like second guessing myself. But I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna go for it. So I said yes, and I signed a contract. So I signed a 5-year contract, which was another scary thing. I started thinking like, I even asked the landlord like, what if worse comes to worse, and like, I don't know, like I can't, like, you know, I just can't work no more or something. And he's like, I'm sure we can come to something. I'm like, 5 years is a long time. Yeah. I ended up keeping the rooms, which works out perfectly. And deciding to just offer more services. So we offer not just hair, we do facials, lash extensions, and microblading. And tell them about you, how you decided to do facials and esthetician after all. Because she wasn't even thinking about that. Well, you were thinking about that a little bit before I came to open a salon. Yeah. But you were doing x-ray tech.
I was going to do either x-ray tech or I was going to do for the esthetician. Right. Which I was never really into school either. So the fact that I would have to do 2 more years on top of the x-ray tech, I just wasn't okay with that. And then I was always working full time and going to school, and I was more focused on work than I was on school. So I missed the grade point average by like 1 point. Yeah. So then I was like, esthetician it is.
Like sister. So she ended up doing esthetician, which works out perfectly because now my sister works here during construction. I decided to continue to work because, again, I just don't know nothing else but to work hard. So I was working every day, the Tuesday through Saturday, and continuing construction and going through with the city. And then I felt like at the time everything just like came crashing down.
Yeah.
Like the city came really hard on me. It made it really, really difficult at the time. I didn't understand why, but there was a new guy, and I think he was just trying to like prove a point or something. And all the permits and everything that were passed, he actually decided to revoke them. So he gave me bad news and said like, no, like as much as like all we needed left were the shampoo bowls. And he kind of just like, he like completely stopped everything and said like, you need to quit everything and redo all your permits, which is a lot of work. He made me hire an architect, which was another like $2,000 to $3,000 on top of, you know, everything else I was doing. And it was going to be not only another $2,000 to $3,000, it was going to take another at least 2 to 3 months. I was in the city office like all the time, and as much as I wanted to cry because I was like, I don't even understand like why I have to do this. Everything was going so good, and now you're telling me like to start over basically. I remember sometimes I would be in the city and he was telling me like, oh no, because I wanted to know like exactly what do I need because this is so confusing. And I like wanted to cry, but I'm like, I can't because I actually have like a client in 10 minutes, so I gotta go. Like I can't even argue because I have to go to work. So it was really tough. It was really, really tough, and I just didn't understand it. But I'm like, I'm just gonna keep forward. I'm not gonna get like I would get like remember how frustrated I would get.
You couldn't even talk to you.
No, because I was so frustrated. I was so upset. I'm like, don't even talk to me. Like I'm so upset. Like I'm working all these hours. I have to deal with all these things. I have to hire an architect. All these things. So it was just a lot. It was a lot of stuff. It was so hard, but I kept going. I kept going, and then my relationship was falling apart at the time, like completely falling. It actually fell apart.
It did.
It did. Well, it actually fell apart
because at the time you weren't slowing down work, so it was like you were still getting off at 8, 9 o'clock at night, and then
sometimes
it's like
10.
Yes, and then it was like, okay, let's go to the salon and let's do all these things, you know, because you had to recreate everything in here. So with Josh, it was more like, okay, you worked so long, like now let's focus on family. And you're like, no, but let's focus on the salon.
You know, he would say that he felt like we were business partners.
Yeah.
But there was just a lot of differences there. There was a lot of like, it was very frustrating on both ends. And at the time, I just was kind of like, we were both just like, we were too frustrated with each other, and it just was a lot of things happening all at one time. It was like the city, it was our relationship, it was like really, really, really one of like the hardest times probably of my entire life. Like, but I think the hard part too is that like you still have to get up the next day and go to work and then kind of like really be productive at work, and you can't like mess up people's hair. Like you have to focus, and it's a really tough thing to do, to like sometimes like, you know, have a lot going on, but you still have to, you know, kind of leave that at the door when you go to work, you know. Even though a lot of my clients know a lot of this stuff already because I'm not like very private. I tell them a lot and I'm really open with them because it's just the truth. Like there's really nothing to hide. There's just the truth, and that's just how life goes. So there was a lot of things going on there during the time of like construction and trying to open up. It was the city. It was my relationship. I was always really frustrated during that time. We were battling, me and Josh were going at it a lot at that time. I got everything they asked for, and even when I got everything they asked for, things kept happening. I remember they lost my paperwork. Like this, I would call the city and they're like, okay, come pick up your paperwork, and it's gonna be another 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay. I didn't even argue with him. I didn't tell his boss. I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna like be as nice as I can and just do what he asked. He ended up losing my paperwork, and then he was like, hey, more bad news. I'm like, oh my gosh. It's like, we lost your paperwork and now we have to look for it. Woke up with an email, and the city, he was just like, just go ahead, move forward with everything you have to do. I think they just lost my paperwork and then just like, okay, never mind.
Yeah, like
basically. Yeah, like, oh, whatever, we lost it. So it was really a tough time, and then when I didn't take any days off. Like,
no.
I worked all the way up.
Harder.
I think I worked harder.
I think because you're gonna like spend all this money and you're like, I don't want to.
Yeah, like even though I had the savings set up for it, I like still wanted to work just in case. Like I'm just that kind of person. Like I I think just in case, or what if, or worst case scenario. And then I worked, like my last day was a Saturday at my last salon, and then my first day was that Tuesday here. So I literally worked the entire time. And I think when I first started here, like there was a lot of stuff I still was doing. So it was, I was frustrated for like probably the whole year. I've been frustrated. It's stressful. It's a lot. And you're trying to stay grounded at the same time. And you're still a mom, and you still run a house, and you still have to clean, you still have to do all the stuff like for that. It's just a lot. And I think that people, they get, I think people sometimes they get scared, or they just get discouraged, like, because it's so much work, and it is. It's a lot of work, dedication, and sacrifice. And I think people get really discouraged sometimes when one thing happens, and it's just like, oh my God, it's discouraging, and it's just too hard. But I think for women or men or anyone who's trying to like achieve something, whether it be something just a school or just a career or a business or even just like something small, that you just stick to it. And even though things come your way or things seem impossible, or even events may happen that just like are terrible, you should just keep moving forward and keep one foot in front of the other and just keep moving forward. A lot of support from family. Not just on my family, but Josh's family. They watched Joe too a lot when he was born or when he was little, and you watch Joe, like they're watching Joe all the time. And I think support is a huge factor. It's nice to have someone who supports you and helps you out. If it wasn't for that, it would be even harder because, you know, I always have my family to help me out. And, you know, Josh and my dad did a lot of the work here. A lot of the work, they ripped out the ceiling, painted it, Josh painted the salon. He would be so mad if I don't give him credit for that. He did paint. You know, so they did a lot of the work here, and as much as like it was hard, I feel like now me and Josh, as far as relationship wise, we're on the same page now, finally, which is like years. I mean, like our son is already going to be 6, and I've been doing hair for 8 years already. So I've actually been with Josh for what, like 10 years? 9 years, 10 years, I don't know. I suck at dates. We've been for a long time, so it's been a long road, but we're finally here. We've been open 1 year now, and we only have 1 booth left. We filled up all the other spots. The rooms are filled. We have an esthetician, her. We have a microblading artist, and we have a lash artist, and then we have, how many girls? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 girls, I believe. I believe we have 7 altogether. So we only have 1 space left, which is actually a lot further than I expected to be at this point. I'm just really happy. I'm blessed, thankful, and grateful for everybody. I feel like I owe a huge thank you to many people, and also to the girls who helped me out. They know who they are with. When it came to opening the salon, I had a lot of questions about construction and plumbing and all these different things. And there was girls too that did help me. There was a lot that kind of didn't really want to help, but then there was also some girls that I really truly appreciate that they answered every question I had, and they're salon owners themselves. So that was amazing. And family, I have to thank family for sure, because they're a huge support. My mom, she heard me call her like many times, you know. My dad, of course, and my whole family, Josh's family, all my clients, of course. Without you guys, it would not be possible. I feel like, who am I missing? If I'm missing someone, please don't be mad at me. My son, duh. Joe, I appreciate him so much. Like he literally gets everything, because I'm like, oh my God, my son, like, what do you want? You can have everything. Of course, I don't let him be a brat. He's not allowed to be a brat, but I mean, he's huge. He's a huge part of this. Like he's huge. I'm surprised I didn't name it Joe Salon. It just kind of would have been like, okay, well, we should go, you know? But he's a huge part of all of this. He's sacrificed a lot, and he's just like, you have to like really take that into consideration, that he spends a lot of time, you know, away from me, and Josh spends a lot of time with him, hands-on with him, and I'm thankful for that, because I used to not be appreciative of that. I used to be like, what do you do? But it's a huge part. It's a huge part of support. It's a huge thing to have him there. And to have him there with Joe, helping him through day in and day out, is a huge thing. That's a huge factor in helping me become successful, because I feel like before that was something that I didn't appreciate. I didn't see it. I felt like, well, I could do it either way by myself, which yes, you can, but it's a lot easier when you have a support team. And you sometimes you overlook people because what they're doing is not huge. It's not something that is spoken very often. It's something that's very like behind the scenes. I'm just really blessed at this time that everything kind of fell into place, even though at the time it just felt like the whole world was just coming against me. I felt. But now that we're a year in and things are all falling into place, my relationship is like 10 times better. You know, my family, it's just like, it doesn't stop that I haven't stopped working a lot. I still work a lot, but I am learning a balance. I'm learning to try to take some time, spend some more time with my son. It's a lot easier now that we're here. And I do appreciate those things, like being able to spend some time with my son, family, and still kind of run things, but learn how to not work so much, that I don't need to work so much. That's actually like a big part in what I'm learning today. I made this video to hope to inspire somebody and to hope to motivate somebody, and to also let you guys know that it wasn't easy, it isn't easy, but it's very possible. And I really hope that this encourages somebody, anybody, to achieve your goals, and to, even if you stopped chasing your goals a long time ago, to maybe reevaluate, you know, that goal, or make some type of goal, just to be successful, or to chase whatever dream you have. And I know it can be hard, and relationships get hard, but it's definitely doable if you guys just, you know, work things out and support each other. You know, support if you have a partner who's really hardworking or chasing a goal or a dream, be supportive. And then opposite wise, if you're the person chasing the goal or the dream, also be understanding of your partner as well, because it's very important for both of you guys to have each other. I think that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. And thank you to every single one of my clients and everybody who supported me and helped me throughout the way. And I hope you guys are inspired, and I hope you guys stay tuned, because I might just make more videos.